doing a real nasty transition. This is one of those things where I feel like there's so many times where, and it's a shame. So let me preface this and lead up into this conversation. So in my opinion, there's so many times where a woman may say something and nobody pays attention to it, and then something bad happens. And that's like super unfortunate. So sorry, I keep doing that. Please stop doing that.
It was an accident. I'm too close to the mic.
Yeah. There's so many times where a woman says something and nobody pays attention, and then something bad happens to her. And I'm not gonna try to do almost like a victim blaming thing in a way, but that's why I'm like even more adamantly expressing my hate to women that do that cry wolf and lie when certain situations happens, because it makes it difficult for people to believe the real things. Mm-hmm. And this is another one of those sort of situations. So what I'm speaking about is a former UNLV women's basketball player, Dylan Gonzalez, put out the tweet, I think it was on December 31st, about Trey Songz being a rapist and allegedly.
Mm-hmm. Allegedly.
Wait, say allegedly?
I said it.
No, say allegedly.
Allegedly.
Okay. We got to make sure we say allegedly. Allegedly being a rapist. Now, Keke Palmer came out and said this how long ago? Do you remember? Must have been, like, it was definitely years ago.
Maybe 3 years, 2 years.
And everybody laughed her off Twitter.
Yeah.
And then since that happened.
There's been stories.
There's been mad stories.
Here and there. There's been stories.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
Locking women in rooms.
Yeah, even stories like that. Like, not necessarily that he's like, that he raped the person, but that he was like very aggressive, overstepping like boundaries.
Yeah. So this is just another one of those examples. Now, first and foremost, you know what the problem is? There's so many issues with this. And this is not even necessarily specific to him. A lot of times when we bring up topics, I don't even like to talk about the person necessarily, but more so talk about the scenario and how it applies to other people. So this is one of those things. And this is not me talking about him specifically, because I don't know what these situations are, what's real, what's not. I never know. But this is what happens when women give themselves to people. And this is not women victim blaming, but this is just one of those things that I hate, that women give themselves to men that are like whack, like,
or men that they know have a history. Like, you thought he was gonna be different with you. Like, no offense, like I hate the victim blame too, but it's like, if you heard of his track record, Keke told you guys, you thought he was about to be different with you. Unless it was a situation where he, like, you know, they were in like a party or something, he grabbed her, brought her to a room, you know. But if you were messing with him willingly.
I wasn't going to get into that point for this one, but I was just mostly saying, like, I was trying to say, because I'm trying not to be explicit on the podcast. There's a way to say it, but I'm trying to like word it differently. Mm-hmm. But this is what happens when women give themselves to men that are whack, corny.
Yeah.
Use their status to try to get different things. Basically, a walking Weinstein.
Yeah, like, that's what Trey Songz is me.
And then that's what you build these people into, and they become monsters, and then you can't tell them anything, and then they just become these people.
Yeah, think about how Trey Songz became like a symbol. Like, he became like,
you had little girls putting with posters up in their room. Like, every girl was fiending over Trey Songz. Like, when I was growing up.
You should saw what my friends did to my locker senior year, junior year. They put his picture all over my locker. I was like, oh my God.
Little girls. And like, you just blow up people's heads, and then they become uncontrollable. And this is what happens, because then it doesn't ever become enough when every girl wants you. Like, it's
kind of like R. Kelly in a way.
Yeah.
R. Kelly got gassed up, and look what happened with him. He was always been sick, but it just made it worse.
So I hate that. Like, then they start having confidence. They start feeling themselves. I hate that. Like,
yeah. It's like,
I hate that. Like, but, you know.
And Trey Songz, now that I'm older, Trey Songz is ugly to me. Like, when I was a kid, he had more of like the cute baby face, but he didn't really grow into his adulthood that nicely. So I don't know why girls are so fiending over him. He's not cute.
It's probably the nostalgia, but also these women that were growing up listening to him, fiending over him.
Yeah, it's a nostalgia.
Now they can get with him because
Yeah.
Instagram and Twitter could connect you to these people directly, and then it
Yeah.
becomes even more sick. Now you got all these fans and stuff that you have access to. You go into one city, then you could just decide to
And
respond
it's
to
so
her
easy because
DM.
before like the social media, you could, like it was a little
It was probably
harder
impossible.
because you had to go to the club and you had to see them in the club. Like you had to kind of like see them out. But now it's like you said, it's easy as a DM.
You could fly people out now. It's just
Yeah.
like it's like an instant Uber.
Yep.
Uber them over there. So, but I just hate when stuff like this happens.
Yeah.
Because you create these monsters, and then it comes out years later how crazy they really were.
Yeah. And it's kind of like for me, I feel like it's so crazy when you hear these stories too, because it's like somebody like Trey Songz, when you get so many different people, it's like you don't need to be that. But that's just,
But that's the problem, is when you get everything, it's never going to be
it's
enough.
never enough. Yeah. And lots of times too, if you're like that means something's always been wrong with you. Some people just have like, we don't know his life story. It could be like it could be like an R. Kelly thing. Like he might have had some stuff happen in his childhood.
But this is why so many men end up being DL celebrities, because
Yeah.
it never becomes enough, and then they have to go try to do something else. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just like one of those things where your mind gets destroyed by Hollywood.
Yep. And you just become like an addict. And like it's like you said, nothing's ever enough. No girls, never enough.
Yeah.
And you can't get in relationships because you like are cheating. You have to constantly be with girls like Tristan Thompson. That's what he'd be giving me.
Yeah. So I mean, should have listened to Kiki. Like it's really
The crazy
tough
thing
to
is, I
balance
like
it.
when she told that story, like I believed it instantly.
Yeah, me too.
I don't get how people thought it was funny. I'm like, she just seemed like she the way she said it was like it was just red flags. Like not like he did anything really to her, but it's kind of like I told you I didn't want to be in the video. Like it's like little stuff like not taking no for an answer.
I think one thing the media might do as well, or maybe they just don't. You know, it's because they care more about the headline, right? Like they'll say, "Oh, so and so was accused of misconduct," right?
Yeah.
To me, that's like almost dehumanizing the act. Like, if that makes sense, like it almost removes what the act was
When they
itself.
say misconduct
Or like,
or when they say assault.
like, why don't they ever say what would like?
Yeah, I hate that. Like sexual assault. Like no, it was rape. Like say what it was.
Or say what he did, like say this person did this in this situation, because then that to me makes it more real and more believable. Because I will say I'm a victim of, in those situations when they put out the headline, I'm just like, okay, like it lets me try to think in my mind what happened as opposed to saying what actually happened. But when Kiki's situation, she described it, so it's like easier to comprehend,
understand.
and you can still lie about that even still, but at least it's more believable in my opinion.
I think what it was with Kiki is that she's such like a goofy personality that a lot of times people don't believe goofy people when they're like how they don't believe goofy people's feelings about stuff, So they probably thought they envisioned in their mind that she was telling him no, but probably in her like funny voice, and he probably was like, oh, she's just playing. So they were just defending him.
No, like these are real people.
Which even if she was saying it in her funny way, if she said no, then it's no.
And that's what another thing I never understood. I hate to sound like, well, I don't hate to sound like it.
What?
Because that's just how I am. I was about to say I hate to sound like a pick me, but no, that's just how I am. I'm not about to apologize for that. But I just never really could wrap my mind around, like, men are real. I know part of it is our genetics, but men are some real predators. Like, it's actually kind of crazy. Because in my opinion, I never felt that. Like, I don't know, like, even in my demon time, I never, like, I don't know.
Felt a need to be like that.
To be grabbing people up and doing all types of stuff like that. That to me is so wild. Like, and I've never been under influence to the point where I didn't know what I was doing or any of those kinds of things. So it's just crazy that, like, that's like a real behavior and real thought process that some men do.
I think the main thing.
They're gonna call it the Weinstein syndrome eventually.
No, I think the main thing is like, for celebrities, yeah. But like I said, I feel like it always was there for guys who are like that. But I feel like the main thing is men knowing that they're stronger than women and using that to their advantage to get what they want.
Women need to be stronger too, in the sense that, and this is not to pass blame, but women need to be stronger as well and hold themselves to higher standards, and then things will change, I think, in my opinion. Obviously, these things will still happen no matter what, because this is a rape situation and it doesn't matter what a woman did.
Yeah.
But I think it will help to, like, kill that, what I call, like, the monsters. from growing.
I think from a woman's perspective, the only thing we really can do is just not put ourselves in those situations. So like, you know, the Weinstein thing is in particular. Like one of the stories, a girl went to his thing at like 3 a.m. And like, yeah, sure, you still should be able to go to a man's place at 3 a.m. and just talk. But come on, it's 3 a.m. Like I feel like sometimes you just gotta think. Like don't put yourself in that situation. And I hate to be like that because like you never victim blame. But it's like certain things like just like I said with the girl with the basketball player. You know Trey Songz, like you know the stories. You're in like, you know, what was she? What is she the WNBA? Or was it high school? I mean,
UNLV
college.
Is the college.
Oh, okay. So maybe not. I was saying because if you're like if you're in like the industry or whatever, you hear the stories. So maybe she wouldn't know. But I feel like just online, you hear the stories. And it's like it's not gonna be different with you. Like I'm sorry, nobody's gonna be that person to change him. And it's like, just I don't know. Just don't put yourself in those scenarios. Like, just do whatever you can. Like, obviously, men are the main ones that need to change. I'm not saying that women bear that responsibility. Like, we shouldn't bear that responsibility. But it's like, at the end of the day, you know they're not going to change, and you got to do what you got to do to protect yourself.
Like, if you take Kanye, for example, and him being a Dottie recently, look at how many women he could have potentially taken down in a matter of, like, a week. Like, it's a lot. And
you probably could have got, like 1,000 bodies in a week if you really wanted to.
In a week? Damn.
No, I'm saying, okay, maybe 100. If you really wanted to.
100?
Yeah.
That's, maybe not 100.
Okay, maybe 50. You say 5 women a day?
I would say
10 women a day?
I would say 40 max.
Okay, yeah, maybe 40. Maybe I'm bugging.
But then again, if you do 10 at once, that would be, yeah, but whatever. But like just using him as a loose example, like that's how the monster can get fed when you're getting just everything thrown at you. It's like, then it becomes unfulfilling. And then now you need to do something crazy.
Yeah.
But bottom line, you know, I think very strongly about these situations, especially when it comes to rape and stuff like that, because you took something from somebody that they can never get back. I have pretty strong feelings about repercussions for that personally, which I've decided to stop sharing online and stuff like that. But yeah, because it might come with some scrutiny. But yeah, I mean, we'll just wait before I pass judgment. But given the stories and stuff like that, and just my personal feelings, there's probably some amount of truth to it. So, you know, prayers to everybody. You know, women, stay safe out there. Try to protect yourself. These men are
sick.
Yeah, we're all sick.
Not all. Some.
Most of the men are sick.
And I think the thing is, I think men have more of like that desire, like, you know, the testosterone, like that urge. So that's why, and then, you know, they're stronger. So that's why it seems like there's a lot more situations like that. But like, you know, it still does happen the other way around too, you know? There's sick women out there too.
Yeah. But men are sicker.
No, men are definitely sick. I'm just saying that's a whole other thing to unpack. That it is kind of sad that there's probably so many. The reason why we don't hear stuff is because most men won't want to label themselves as a victim. So like we probably don't hear. There's probably so many stories we just don't hear. But obviously, I think even with that case, it's still higher that men do it. Obviously, we see the murders. We see the, you know, the hard proof.
Yeah. You know, prayers to everyone involved, and I'm sure at some point we'll stop getting stories like this.
Oh, with celebrities?
Yeah. The career suicide is...
Yeah. Like, come on. You have, like, your Trey Songz, and now this is your legacy. You look his name up on Google, and it's probably a lot of these stories now. And you're literally destroying your own legacy.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know, then you see what happened with R. Kelly. Even despite all the stories, people were still supporting him, playing his music, making him money. So if Trey Songz had a concert tomorrow, it probably would still sell out.
I think people only still... I don't want to get into R. Kelly, but I think... No. I'll have to do a deeper thought into that one about why... It was like, dude, I feel like it's just crazy. Like that whole mentality, and I'm gonna specifically hone in on black people, but black people's mentality about what he did to that girl is like, I don't understand where the continued support is coming from, as if somebody planted a story on him or some shit like that. Like, that's not what happened. So I just don't understand why, because to me, that's what you're condoning, right? So like, let your daughter go out and get raped in,
Yeah.
and then see if you're playing his mixtape,
And the crazy part, all the people that were still supporting him probably had daughters. They had,
and just didn't
which
care.
I'm sure because I feel like, weren't our parents playing it probably after the fact?
Not mine.
I don't know. Because when did that happen? 2003?
Yeah, or well, somewhere around there. I know there ain't a R.
think my
Kelly song in
parents
iTunes.
Playing that music.
Well,
It's kind of sick because, like, yeah, you have daughters, you have cousins. I mean, nieces and nephews.
and to some degree, you can separate the art from the artist. I can't think of an artist where they've done something so outlandish where I would have to
13-year-old.
cut off their music. People do things that I don't agree with,
Yeah.
but never to the extent in which I would stop listening. Like,
Yeah,
he's
because
the
like, I
only,
know at one point you were kind of disagreeing with Kanye. Like, you were kind of on the outs with him as a person, but you still like this music.
yeah, not enough. Like, your political stance isn't enough for me to not listen to your music. Like, that.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. But abusing a 13-year-old girl or however old she was.
What do you think about the fact that, I think we talked about this before, but like how like rock star culture, it was basically the same thing, but it wasn't really considered abuse, but it still was kind of like weird that marrying like these underage girls.
They did a lot more than just married. It was out. That's what that whole.
That stuff probably just wasn't as publicly known like it was with R. Kelly.
Nah, it was no. It's just who's doing it, the color skin of the person doing it.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother argument to unlock because it is kind of crazy. Like, obviously they're all wrong. R. Kelly's wrong, all the other people wrong, but there is another layer to it that we see. Like this, like even with the Travis Scott situation, there's this degree of like canceling somebody when they're black. I feel like that's deeper.
Yeah, because
they go in when it's us.
They know that whole rock star culture, like where the girl, it was a girl's dream to get backstage, and they had like that van,
15.
that van culture.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to explain it. Like they wanted to be on the tour bus and be in the van and travel. Like the whole idea of a groupie, I think, came from the rock star culture,
people,
and then those people weren't always of age.
And they married them. They have relationships with them. They got them pregnant.
And so much of their music was focused around adolescence and growing and being like a rebellious teen. Like so much of that stuff was pretty much keyed in on teenage girls. Yeah. And that stuff, it's definitely known. Like that's like a hard fact, but it's just the skin color of the people. Like it's just, they just chalked it up. They just chalked it up.
They all knew what was going on. Those same people who probably talk about Travis, like, cause there was like big names that were canceling Travis, and talking about like the baby and stuff. It's like, wait, but you probably knew what Weinstein was doing, or
what other people are doing, and the stories just haven't come out yet. Like
you probably heard somebody famous say something about like the LGBTQ community, but Dave Chappelle and the baby. Now you're publicly trying to cancel them.
It's crazy.
But you probably heard worse in private.
Yeah. It's a pretty wild situation.
So it was like, yeah, they're all wrong. Like, we're not saying just because you're black, you're right, but it's crazy that when you're black, it is a step further that you get when it comes to scrutiny. And I don't like that.